Hey, what's up everyone? Entering Infinity here. Today I'm back with a new video to discuss My Hero Academia episode 92. Let's jump into it. So the episode starts off with Class 1A pretty much strategizing right before the match with Class 1B is about to start, and we see Shinzo pretty much telling the rest of his group the extent of his abilities and how his quirk works, which was interesting because I don't think we ever got that level of detail before. So he pretty much explains that he can't control more than one person at a time to his knowledge, and he can't make them think or talk on their own. He can pretty much only make them move if he speaks to them and they respond, and he has to focus in his mind and think about the brainwashing. So he pretty much just explains, how everything works, but they only have a little bit of time. The Class 1A group pretty much spends the whole time discussing Shinzo's quirk as opposed to really coming up with an effective strategy. So I like that they include this little kind of flashback to show that they did at least have a conversation, that he did at least explain, what he can do so that his teammates know. Even though they didn't get a chance to necessarily strategize beforehand, it does in fact come and play later. So I do like that they did include that in this episode. So then we pick up where we left off in the last one, where Shinzo had mind controlled the Beast kid from 1B and the kid that could shoot the air prisons that was on his back. He had trapped Shinzo in the air prison so he couldn't get out, and then the kid that could shoot the air prisons was like beating on the Beast's back to kind of snap him out of it, and eventually he does snap out of it. So then he starts going on the attack again, and then we see pretty much Red Riot and the bird guy try to team up against him. So then the frog girl uses her tongue to pretty much grab the kid that could shoot the air prisons out of his mouth. She grabs him and starts running towards their Class 1A prison to capture him, and then the Beast guy is like about to pop off, and then Kaminari tries to like electrocute him, but it doesn't work. So then Red Riot and the bird guy have to try to like team up to fight him, and we see Red Riot go and shatter the prison that he was trapped in, and then the two of them try to fight the Beast kid from Class 1B, and then we get to see them pretty much basically go to like hit him, but then the Beast guy goes back into human mode, so he like squeezes between the two of them, and then he bulks back up into his beast mode so that he can continue on forward. So then the Beast guy pretty much grabs both of them and restrains Red Riot and the kid that could talk to animals, and he basically just takes Red Riot and chucks him over the building to the Vine girl on his team that's essentially just chilling there. And when Red Riot falls down, the girl with the vines like snares him up and then just throws him in the prison. So didn't really get to see much from Red Riot. That was pretty disappointing in this fight. So he does become the first person captured from Class 1A. So then they're down, and then the frog girl manages to go and put the kid that could shoot the air prisons out. They capture them. So now it's each one has captured one person from each team. So now it's 4-3 since Class 1A has Shinzo as an extra on their team. But at this point, the kid that could talk to the animals, he's still captured by the Beast. So the Beast guy just starts running him back to the prison because he's like, I'm just going to get the other one while I have him. So he heads back, and there's pretty much nothing they could do about it. So he gets captured too. So now they have 2 people captured to Class 1A's 1 capture. So now it's down to a 3-on-3 match. And then we see the Frog Girl and Kaminari have to try to save Shinzo from the air prison that he's still trapped in. So they get like these crowbars and these pipes, and they start bashing the prison, and they realize that it's become much stronger than it was back when they saw it first at the sports festival in the earlier seasons, just pretty much showcasing the fact that Class 1B has gotten a lot stronger than we have seen them, and that they are a credible class. So eventually they break the prison that Shinzo's trapped in, and the 3 of them pretty much have a brief moment of reprieve where they kind of just like talk and like regroup to themselves. And it was kind of a nice moment that we get to see Kaminari and the Frog Girl basically saying like, how impressed they are with Shinzo and how he's not so far behind them, and they're pretty much just saying really nice things. And I think it kind of caught Shinzo off guard because he kind of just like has this like wall up that, he doesn't want to be friends with anybody. He just wants to do his own thing. So I think that's going to be part of his character development, is him learning how to, operate in a team environment and want to be a part of a team as opposed to thinking that he could do everything by himself. So I think that's going to be the start of that character development for him at the very least. And then after that, they pretty much need to come up with a strategy for how they're going to go about winning this match now that it's 3-on-3. So the Frog Girl pretty much says that she has this like mucus stuff that's like dripping off of her arm, and that they pretty much just cover themselves in the mucus so that way the Beast guy, who has like a ridiculous sense of smell, he won't be able to tell who is who. He just will smell 3 versions of the Frog Girl, so they can use that as like a way to sneak attack them. So that's pretty much what they decide to do. And then the Frog Girl points out to Kaminari that one of his discs that he can shoot stuck to the Beast guy, and his like eyeglasses or sunglasses have like a tracking on it, so he can track where any of those discs are. And like he didn't even like understand how that worked for some reason. The Frog Girl's like, I don't understand how you didn't realize that. So they're able to track exactly where they are based on that disc that's stuck to the side of the Beast guy. So then they pretty much devise a strategy how they're going to go and sneak undercover, and they know exactly where they are thanks to the tracking device. So we see the team pretty much set out to go attack, and then we see Class 1B's 3 people that are left. They're trying to strategize as well, and the Beast kid smells the 3 of them coming, but he's like, I don't understand this. There's 3 Frog Girls coming. Like, I don't know what's going on. So then we see the Vine Girl's like, step back, I got this. And then she sends out like a ton of vines. Like, it's pretty incredible how much vines that she could actually produce. It's like actually pretty insane. She's like one of my favorite characters from that class so far, especially with how like dramatic she is. It's like really hilarious, like the little quirk that she has with that. But yeah, she sends out all the vines, and then she's just like, I'm just gonna grab them. And then we cut back to Class 1A, and they decide to come up with another strategy where Kaminari is gonna let himself get captured. That way it buys the other 2 more time to close in, and then he can use his electricity to like attack them. So the Vine Girl is like, yeah, I got one of them, and she pulls him in, and he's like, haha, that's what I wanted you to do. He's like, I can concentrate my electricity, I point my fingers, and then it'll like go into like a direct line into the disc that was stuck to the Beast guy. So he's like, I'm gonna take him out. And when he goes to do that, it shoots out, and then the kid from Class 1B, who has, by the way, I love this kid's character design. He was one of the kids I referenced in the earlier videos that I was saying how some of the kids from Class B have really cool character designs, and his is like one of my favorite. He has like it looks like the paper bomb from Naruto over his eyes, and he has a machine gun on his arm that he shoots his scales out. I really like that kid, and I hope we get to see more of him going forward, because he's actually way cooler than a lot of other characters that we have, even fodder characters of Class 1A. But he has like a really good intuition. He sees what's going on, so he uses his scale gun, shoots it, and his scales go shoot the disc off of the Beast guy, and the electricity goes and hits the disc out of the way, and he saves the Beast guy from like getting hit. So it was like really smart strategizing. And then Kaminari is pretty much just like completely engulfed in the vines, and his plan pretty much was foiled. So then we hear someone calling out to the Vine Girl that we think is I think it was the Scale Kid, and she responds, and then all of a sudden her eyes go white, and we see that she's brainwashed, because it was actually Shinzo, who was brilliantly hiding within the little corridors of this weird town that they're in, and he used where he was to like, echo his voice, and use his voice changer to copy that kid with the scales. So she fell for it, and she became brainwashed. So they pretty much took out the most powerful person on 1B. So then it was pretty much just up to the kid with the scales and the Beast guy to go like fight them, the last 2, because Kaminari was still trapped at that point. And the Beast guy senses where Shinzo is, and he just starts like bum rushing to the location, and the kid with the scales is trying to communicate with him, but he was just ignoring him because he didn't trust him, thinking that it could be Shinzo trying to brainwash him. So smart that he used it in the sense that they can't trust each other's communication, because they can't tell if it's coming from Shinzo or if it's coming from their own teammate. So it's just like an extra layer of complexity to Shinzo's quirk, and that he also breaks down the communication and the trust within his enemies because they don't know who's who. So that was interesting, because the Scale Kid was like trying to call out to him. He's like, hey, it's me, like we need to communicate. And the Beast guy just didn't even want to listen. He was just making a beeline right for Shinzo's location. So we see him pretty much get there, and while he's going there, the Frog Girl's like attacking the kid with the scales, and they have like a little skirmish, which was pretty cool. But ultimately the Frog Girl takes him out, and she wraps him up in her tongue and lets him prisoner. And then we cut back to the Beast guy, and he's still like making his way towards Shinzo, and now he's like right up in his face. Now you're like, oh man, what is Shinzo gonna do? Because he's not a combat fighter, and now he's up against basically the Incredible Hulk over here. So then what I love is that they gave Shinzo essentially the same wraps that, or binds, however you say it, that Mr. Aizawa that he has wrapped around his head, and he uses those binds to fight like, close combat, which is pretty cool how he trained on that. I'm curious if Aizawa like actually trained him how to use that, or like kind of what the extent of their relationship is. And he was the one that went to Aizawa to like do the transfer, and it seems like they have some kind of a relationship. So I'm curious if he's done any training with him at all, because it's interesting that he has the same wraps that Aizawa has. So then he uses the wraps wrap around like a pipe and he pulls it down on his head, and he tries to start stalling him and like fight, which I like that at least he's equipped to not just stand there and just get his ass beat. So then right when the beast guy was about to attack him, because the pipe only did so much because he's like just so beastly that it didn't really affect him much, Frog Girl takes the kid with the scales that she has wrapped up and like launches it at him, and it hits him right in the back and pretty much knocks them both out. And that pretty much seals it up, because then they use the mind control Divine Girl to wrap them up in the vines and go bring them all to the prison. So we get to see that Class 1A took the W and they won 4-2, which was really cool. I really enjoyed the fact that all the different strategies that we got to see in this, from not only Class 1A but also Class 1B, because Class 1B did have some really smart strategies. They just ultimately got outsmarted, and a big part of that was because of Shinzo. I don't think that they would have won that one if it wasn't for Shinzo's help. And it was really nice to see, even when they would cut back to like the kids that weren't participating in that match, like talking about it, especially Deku, he really acknowledged the fact that Shinzo's actually really strong, and like he's not somebody to be underestimated. They were acting like beforehand that Shinzo could be a handicap because he's not experienced, but he's really not. He's actually really powerful. His tools that he has with the voice changer and with his raps, it makes him really formidable, and he's also really smart on how he uses them. So I'm just loving all this Shinzo content, and I'm curious to see how it's going to be when he's on Class 1B's side. But yeah, that essentially wraps up the episode. Overall, I think it was really good. It was really action-packed. I like that, we had a lot of setup before, and now we got to actually dive into the action the whole time. We got some really good character developing moments with Shinzo kind of interacting with Class 1A and them kind of welcoming him in, and him kind of starting to maybe let his guard down. We got to see new levels of strategy with students having to be in these different situations. So yeah, overall I thought it was a really good episode. Looks like next episode we're going to be diving right into the next round of fights between Class 1A and 1B. Seems like it's going to be pretty focused heavily on Tokiomi, which is really cool because I think he's a really underrated character and I like him a lot. He says he's going to be using a new technique that has never been used before in Japan, and I'm curious why they said Japan specifically in that context. It was a little weird, but I am curious to see what his new technique is, because I think he is the strongest from Class 1A that's in that team, and I'm curious to see how well he can actually perform in this situation, considering his powers weakened during the daytime. So I'm not sure what his new ability is, if he found a way to compensate for the fact that when he has to fight in daylight, or if he's going to be like kind of hiding in the shadows, because it seems like there's a kid on Class 1B that has the ability to travel through shadows and stuff. So that's going to be a really exciting episode. I'm looking forward to it. So that's all I have for this one. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, let me know what you thought of it, drop a comment down below. I'm curious to see what you all thought of it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more of this content, and I will catch you all in the next one.